Okay, so today we are diving into your story outline.
Correct.
And wow, this one is really a cool blend of family drama, mystery, and honestly, a little bit of art history in there.
Yeah, I love it.
You've got like this really great setup with three heirs, Jake, Anne, and Poi, who inherit their Aunt Ramona's estate. But of course, there's a catch.
Always a catch, right?
There is always a catch. And this one is a classic. They have to live in her creepy old house for a week. I mean, honestly, have you ever lived in an old house?
Well,
Because,
yeah, I have actually, and it definitely had that presence,
yes, you get that
like you're
kind of.
never really alone, that kind of vibe,
Exactly. So you've really tapped into that classic trope, but then added this psychological suspense element.
right? And each heir, I mean, you set them up so well. They each have such distinct personalities. They represent such different ways of seeing the world. You've got Jake, the physics student.
Yeah, he's grounded in logic.
Oh, absolutely. Very much a show me the evidence kind of guy.
Exactly. He's the one who'd probably be annoyed by all the spooky noises in that old house. Then there's Anne, the artist. Now she's all about intuition and feeling, probably the one picking up on those subtle vibes.
Totally picking up on things the others might miss. And then there's Poi, studying astrobiology. Talk about a unique perspective. I bet they're already looking for signs of life. And not just any life, alien life, in the backyard.
Right. And this clash of personalities, it's not just for show, is it? It speaks to something deeper about how we each approach the unknown. It makes me think about how differently people react to, like, a sudden storm or something. Some people panic, others become really analytical about it.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That human element of how we face the unknown. Some cling to logic, some to emotions, and then you have those who, like Poi it seems, embrace the unexplainable.
And that's what makes their reactions to the increasingly strange events so compelling, especially when you add in the curveball, the hidden painting they find in the attic.
Oh, that painting. Game changer for sure.
Right. You described it as hyper-realistic, a pregnant woman, almost unsettlingly lifelike. And honestly, when I was reading that part, I got chills. It's such a powerful image, and you've clearly chosen it carefully, especially considering how each character reacts to it.
Oh, absolutely. On the surface, it's like, okay, a portrait, right?
Yeah.
But the way Jake is drawn to the technical mastery of it, the detail, while Anne feels this almost instant emotional connection, it's like you've given each of them a different lens to view this central mystery.
It's true. It's like one of those optical illusions where the image changes depending on how you look at it.
Exactly.
And speaking of illusions, you mentioned those vivid dreams, almost like hallucinations, but shared. Like all three characters are having them. And the woman from the painting, she's in all of them. It's creepy, but also, I don't know, like she's reaching out from beyond the canvas? Why'd you decide to use dreams as this shared experience rather than, say, individual hallucinations?
Hmm. That's a really good question. I think for me, it was about creating this sense of like a shared reality that's shifting.
Yeah.
If they were just having individual hallucinations, it would be easy to dismiss as, you know, nerves,
Yeah.
stress.
Right, like they're just imagining things.
Exactly. But the fact that all three of them are dreaming about this woman in such vivid detail, well, it kind of suggests that something else is going on, something beyond their individual minds.
For sure. It's like you're blurring the lines between the real and the unreal.
Yeah, and it forces them, especially someone like Jake, to confront the possibility that, well, maybe there isn't a simple explanation for everything.
Oh, I bet he'll still try to find a logical explanation, even if it means driving himself a little crazy in the process.
I think so too. That's just who he is.
But even he can't deny the reality of what they're experiencing together, which leads them to Aunt Ramona's art gallery. And this setting, wow, it's interesting. Tell me more about it.
So it's full of this hyper-realistic art, just like the painting they found.
Hmm.
But there's this one detail, and it might seem small, but it stood out to me.
Hmm.
The town where the gallery is located, it's like everyone there is old, like really old.
Okay, now that is a detail that makes you think, right? It's almost like you've put this ultra-modern art gallery in a town that's frozen in time. And it makes me wonder, was Aunt Ramona seeking refuge from something? Or was she drawn to this place for a reason? What do you think? It's like you've got this incredible contrast, this really modern art, but in a place that feels almost forgotten, stuck in a different time. And then there's the gallery owner, Mauricio. You described him as nervous, a little evasive, like he knows more about Aunt Ramona than he's letting on. What do you think he's hiding?
See, and that's what makes him such a fascinating character, right? It's like he's this link to the past, holding on to secrets.
Mm.
Was he Ramona's friend?
Mm.
confidant? Or was there something more,
And those secrets just keep piling up, don't they? I mean, you've got the
Yeah.
empty arcade, which honestly, how eerie is that? An empty arcade. And then the Chaman and that arcade game, like a mirror image of the island itself. What's going on with all of that? It's a lot to unpack.
Right. It's like each detail adds another layer to the mystery, and then another and another. Okay, so the empty arcade, to me, it represents like this loss of innocence. It was
Mm,
probably once this vibrant place full of life, and now it's just empty.
yeah.
And then you bring in the shaman, a figure often tied to ancient wisdom and the spirit world. And what does he do? He gives them this cryptic message about a golden thread connecting the heirs.
Yeah, that golden thread, it keeps popping up first in those shared dreams and now from the shaman. It's almost like he's saying it's their destiny, this connection to the island, maybe even a connection to the woman in the painting, Ricitos de Oro.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because you've presented this symbol, this golden thread, and it can be interpreted in so many ways. Is it familial? Is it a shared destiny? Or could it be something, I don't know, maybe even more like spiritual or something that goes beyond just the physical world? It definitely makes you wonder. And it's clear that it's meant to guide them, this thread, like a trail leading deeper into the heart of the mystery.
It's like that breadcrumb trail in those fairy tales, except these breadcrumbs might lead to something way more intense than a gingerbread house, right? And speaking of following a trail, you mentioned that back at the house, the heirs, they stumble upon this like massive collection of books, right? Art history, local legends, even some that delve into, well, the occult. What was Aunt Ramona researching and why is it all just sitting there? It makes you think like, did Aunt Ramona leave those books for them on purpose? Sort of like I don't know, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to the truth?
Right. It's like she knew they'd end up in that house and need those clues, like pieces of a puzzle scattered around waiting to be assembled.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is how each heir, with their own area of expertise, would approach this treasure trove of information. It's like you've given them each a key, but the key only unlocks a part of the bigger picture.
Exactly. Like Jake, he's analytical, right? So he'd probably gravitate toward the history books, the factual accounts, things he can actually verify.
Well, for sure. He'd be all over those historical records, trying to find some concrete evidence to explain the weirdness. While Anne, now she'd be drawn to the more symbolic stuff, right?
Totally. The local legends, the myths, anything with a deeper meaning hidden beneath the surface. And Poi, well, they'd probably make a beeline for those books on the occult, eager to dive into the unexplainable, the paranormal side of things.
It's like you've created this perfect storm of perspectives, each one adding another layer to the investigation. And as they delve deeper, they start noticing these, like, synchronicities, these weird connections they wouldn't have seen before.
Like the golden thread that Shaman mentioned. Maybe it starts appearing in those old books, too. It's all starting to feel very national treasure, don't you think? Except a lot creepier. So what happens next? What do they discover?
Well, remember that feeling we talked about, that sense of secrecy surrounding Aunt Ramona? Like someone was trying to erase her or at least keep her hidden?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out it's true. As the heirs dig deeper, they uncover evidence suggesting that Ramona wasn't just an artist. She came from a long line of women who were deeply connected to the island, women revered for their gifts, but also feared.
Okay, now that is interesting. It's like they stumbled onto something bigger than themselves, something ancient, and maybe even a little dangerous.
Exactly. And this is where that golden thread motif, it takes on a whole new meaning. It's not just a random symbol. It represents lineage, a legacy passed down through generations. Ramona wasn't just trying to unlock the island's secrets. She was trying to reclaim her heritage, a birthright that had been stolen or maybe hidden away.
Wow, this is giving me chills. It's like they've stepped into a story that's been unfolding for centuries, and they're just now catching up.
And the deeper they go, the more they realize the truth might be more complicated than they ever imagined. It's not just about solving a mystery anymore. It's about confronting a past that refuses to stay buried. It makes you wonder, what would you do if you were in their shoes? Would you keep digging, even if it meant unearthing something you weren't ready for?
That's a really good question, and it's one that I'm going to leave with you, our listeners. What would you do? Would you chase the golden thread no matter where it leads? This has been an amazing deep dive. We started with this intriguing inheritance story and ended up exploring art, history, family secrets, and the power of the past. It's mind-blowing, really, and I can't wait to see what you do with it.
It's been a pleasure. Remember, the real magic happens when you take these ideas, these threads of story, and weave them into something new, something entirely your own.